Thank you for having me, and I definitely feel called to share my testimony. I've shared it many times in different spaces, but what a beautiful setting in this church and with you all. So Jen mentioned last week what the subject was, and I said, I could say something about that. I'm not an expert in this area, I want to say that. I'm just sharing my own personal point of view of my lived wisdom, what I've been through. So in 2008, I got married to my wonderful husband, Nelson, and we both wanted kids very badly. And so between 2009 and 2019, those were our building years. And I had told myself, like I had a choice, I told myself, I'm going to have 2 kids before I'm 35, and that'll be great. So what we got was 6 pregnancies in 10 years. We had an early loss at 7 weeks. We lost our son, James, at 41 weeks during labor. We lost him at birth. Then I had 2 losses back-to-back at 16 weeks gestation. And after some years of searching and trying to figure out what was happening, we welcomed our miracle baby Josie into the world, who some of you know. And then we experienced a last and final early loss at 10 weeks before I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Mentally, physically, emotionally, it was not worth the trials and tribulations. So I did not get what I set out for, and it was a very humbling experience. I'd like to focus in a little bit on the acute grief after we lost James, before the other losses, before Josie came. We lost him in the hospital. We went home empty-handed, and the world was now upside down and inside out. The rules that we'd known and lived by were all different. Everything changed. I was not myself. I was in shock. I'd faced profound physical and emotional trauma, spiritual trauma, I will throw that in as well, and the world just didn't make sense. I had grown up in the UCC church here in Seattle. I had claimed myself as a very spiritual person, yet I found myself hating God. So much anger, trying to place blame somewhere. We were spinning in the sorrow of our pain and our loss. I knew I could choose a road to go down. Was it going to be, I'm going to numb myself and ignore what had just happened? Or should I face the pain, lean into the grief, and eventually learn how to surrender to it? I intuitively chose the latter because I think I knew, my soul knew something, that perhaps that was a better choice for me. And in those months after, someone had sent me the book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And it really helped shift my thinking away from hating God and that this isn't God's doing, perhaps. Perhaps God is the first to cry with me after all these losses. That God is always available to us, no matter what, to be by our sides when we have life's hardships or face them. So as I was working to make sense of my own tragedy, another took place 2 years later, Sandy Hook. And I could personally relate to those parents losing their children unexpectedly. That was December of 2012, 2 years after we lost James. Now, something I need to explain is that when someone gets broken open by loss and pain, there's a sense of feeling, I felt the veil was thin between worlds. I felt broken open. I felt tender. My senses were definitely heightened. And I remember contemplating what was going on. Like, why would something this bad happen to children? As I was driving across I-90, I was heading west, I remember, and I got the download that there's always an opportunity that presents itself in the most darkest tragedies in our world. There's an opportunity for profound healing and transformation. And in our world, there's nothing more of a catalyst than that. for transformation than grief or pain. Now, what we want to dismantle here is that opportunity may or may not be taken, and that's okay. That pain that I went through and chose to lean into is the toughest that I've ever done. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. So the fact that it presents itself without judgment is something that interests me. And it's a hard road to travel to face those atrocities that happen in life, because it reveals to us how unforgiving life can be, how dark it can be. And for me personally, the lack of control I have over life. And now I have a living child, but I have no control over whether she lives or not. And so that's my own tribulation that I have to live with. But I will say I am here standing on both feet, rooted in the earth, saying that my son and the grief that I faced, that was left behind, are my greatest teachers in life. I'm grateful to him because I feel joy more easily. Stop it, tears. I feel joy more easily because I experienced years of darkness and being in my own cave to heal myself. I know the true meaning of love because I have felt the deep depths of grief, which is the two-sided coin of love. And I am able to help other people a lot better. Just the way Rabbi Kushner said, I am able to be more empathetic and present with people in new and different ways than before. So I've gone on to write about my soul, my own shifts with myself, and gone on to lead retreats and support groups for families facing the same type of losses. But again, as the rabbi said, I would trade it all to have my babies with me here at Earthside. So we don't ever know why bad things happen to good people. No one can pass on that kind of judgment other than God. And what I do know is that there's a mystery at play, one that is loving, one that is unforgiving, deeply painful, and yet has the power to transform and bring about profound healing. I will add that having a loving church community made a huge difference in my healing. It's a place and a space where I could find respite, just as I was. No makeup, crying every Sunday. I could find recovery, meaning, new meaning in my grief, and in the connections with others, the messages, the music, words. Amazing Grace sounded different to me. And soon, years after, I am glad to say that I've found myself surthriving. I've survived, but I'm also thriving in life after profound loss. Thank you.